Here is the truth that almost nobody tells you. Honey is not automatically a safe bedtime food just because it came from a bee. If you are over 70, the wrong spoonful at the wrong hour can push your blood sugar up, stir acid into your throat, and quietly disrupt the kind of sleep your brain and heart need to repair. 1 tablespoon of honey contains about 17 grams of sugar. 17. Remember that number, because before this video ends, it may change the way you look at that innocent evening drizzle forever. Here is what most people get wrong. They treat honey like medicine when, at the wrong time, your body may treat it like dessert. And after 70, timing matters more than most people realize. This is not about a small habit. This is about your balance, your memory, your energy in the morning, your risk of reflux, your insulin response, and your ability to stay independent in your own home. When sleep gets lighter, when muscles recover more slowly, when blood sugar becomes more sensitive, a nightly sugar hit can stop being harmless. It can become a pattern, and patterns are what age you. I am a physician, and I have spent more than 15 years caring for older adults, reviewing nutrition research and helping patients untangle everyday habits that were quietly working against them. I am not here to sell you a supplement or scare you into a course. I am here because I have seen too many good people do something they believed was healthy, only to learn that the hour they were doing it was the real problem. Stay with me until the end, because the most surprising item on this list is not midnight. It is the hour many older adults think is completely safe. And if you are watching this in your 70s, or for someone you love who is, write your age in the comments, or the age of the person you are worried about. I read every single comment, and it helps me know who I am speaking to. Before we get into the list, keep 3 simple ideas in mind. First, glucose control. That is just blood sugar stability. Think of your bloodstream like a river delivery system. Too much sugar arriving too fast is like sending a traffic jam into a narrow bridge. Second, circadian timing. That is your body clock. Think of it like the opening and closing hours of a well-run store. Your body handles fuel differently at 8 in the morning than it does at 10 at night. Third, reflux pressure. That is the tendency of food and acid to move upward when digestion slows and you lie down. Think of your stomach like a bottle that should stay upright. Tip it at the wrong time, and the contents push where they do not belong. Keep those 3 mechanisms with you because we are going to come back to them again and again. 1. The last hour before bed. This is the hour I worry about most because it feels so harmless. A little honey in warm water, a spoonful straight from the jar, a drizzle over toast. Many people do it to settle down. Here is what it does inside you. It sends a quick load of sugar into a body that is already preparing to slow down for the night. Think of your pancreas like a night shift worker who was about to clock out, then suddenly gets handed one more urgent job. In a clinical trial published in the Journal of Diabetes Investigation, researchers studied 12 healthy adults and found that delaying dinner by as little as 1 hour impaired glucose tolerance, meaning sugar stayed higher after the meal and took longer to come down. 1 hour. That is not a small number. So if a whole meal that late can do that, a concentrated sweet food right before bed is not the small choice it appears to be. Ignore this, and you may sleep with higher glucose, more wake-ups, more thirst, and more sluggish mornings. So what should you do instead? If you want honey, use 1 teaspoon, not 1 tablespoon, and use it earlier, ideally with breakfast or lunch, not in the last 2 to 3 hours before sleep. Better yet, pair it with plain yogurt, oats, or nuts, so fiber or protein slows the rise. Let me tell you about someone I will call Helen, 74 years old, from Tulsa. Every night at about 10:15, she stirred honey into chamomile tea because she thought it was helping her rest. But she kept waking at 2 in the morning, dry-mouthed, restless, and annoyed that sleep never felt deep. We moved the honey to breakfast, cut the amount in half, and kept the tea plain at night. 2 weeks later, the first thing she said to me was, I am not prowling the hallway at 2 anymore. My first reaction was not fear, it was frustration, because nobody had ever told her the timing mattered. Synergy tip. If you have a sweet tooth after dinner, take a 10-minute walk after your meal and use cinnamon or vanilla for flavor later instead of sugar. 2. After a late dinner. Here is the part that should concern you most. Honey becomes more troublesome when it lands on top of an already late evening meal. Here is what it does inside you. It stacks sugar on top of slow digestion. Think of your stomach like a sink that is draining more slowly with age. Add one more sugary rinse at the end, and the basin stays fuller, longer. Researchers analyzing 7,619 adults in the journal Nutritionist found that every hour later eating began was associated with about 0.6% higher glucose and 3% higher insulin resistance, the body's reduced ability to respond to insulin. 3% for every hour later. That may sound small, but habits compound. Night after night, year after year, that is how normal-looking routines become abnormal lab tests. The consequence is simple. You wake up less restored, and over time, you may nudge yourself toward prediabetes without realizing it. So, what should you do instead? Finish dinner at least 3 hours before bed, and if you like honey, do not add it after that meal. Use it only earlier in the day and keep the amount modest. 1 teaspoon is usually enough for flavor. Let me tell you about someone I will call Robert, 78 years old, from Tampa. He loved late dinners, then a spoon of honey over ricotta while he watched the news. He told me it was his one pleasure. But he also told me mornings felt heavy, his fasting sugar was creeping up, and breakfast never sounded good. We shifted dinner earlier by 90 minutes and saved sweet foods for lunch, not night. 6 weeks later, he told me the strange metallic taste in his mouth on waking had faded, and he had more energy to walk his dog before sunrise. If you ignore this one, you may keep blaming age for symptoms that are really about timing. 3. When reflux already visits you at night. If you are over 70 and you ever wake with burning in the chest, sour taste in the mouth, coughing, throat clearing, or a hoarse voice in the morning, this matters. Here is what honey does inside you in that setting. It adds a sticky, sugary burden to a stomach that may already be under pressure when you lie down. Think of your lower esophageal valve like a door with a tired hinge. It may still close, but not as tightly as it used to. A review on gastroesophageal reflux disease in older adults reported that among patients over 60, esophagitis and Barrett-related changes were found in 81%, compared with 47% in younger patients. 81%. That is not a small number. Older adults often feel less classic heartburn, yet they can have more severe complications. That is what most people get wrong. Fewer symptoms do not always mean less danger. So what should you do instead? Never take honey within 3 hours of lying down if reflux is part of your story. Raise the head of your bed if your doctor has advised it. Keep evening meals smaller. Avoid peppermint and chocolate at night, and keep honey for a morning meal only. Let me tell you about someone I will call Anita, 72 years old, from Phoenix. She swore her nighttime cough was allergies, but every evening she had toast, butter, and honey after dinner because it felt light. When we moved that snack to late morning and kept the evening meal simpler, the rasp in her voice softened within days. She said the biggest surprise was not the chest burn, it was waking without that bitter taste at the back of her tongue. If you have reflux, the question is not only what you eat, but when gravity stops helping you. 4. In the middle of the night, when you cannot sleep. This is the hour that tricks people. You wake up, you feel unsettled, and a spoonful of honey seems like a gentle way to soothe yourself back to bed. Stay with me until the end, because this may be the habit that surprises you most. Here is what it does inside you. It gives your brain a brief glow of reward, then may pull you into a second wave of wakefulness as your body responds. Think of blood sugar like a campfire. If you dump fast fuel on it at the wrong moment, the flame jumps, but it does not last. In the Women's Health Initiative observational study, researchers followed 77,860 postmenopausal women at baseline and over 53,000 during follow-up. Women in the highest group for dietary glycemic index, meaning faster-acting carbohydrates, had 11% higher odds of prevalent insomnia and 16% higher odds of new insomnia over 3 years compared with women in the lowest group, 11%, then 16%. That is the opposite of restful. So what should you do instead? If you wake at night, do not reach for honey. Try plain water, slow breathing, a dim light, and if you truly need a small snack because of a medical condition or because your physician advised it, make it protein-based, like a few spoonfuls of unsweetened yogurt or a small piece of cheese, not sugar. Let me tell you about someone I will call Grace, 80 years old, from Dayton. She kept honey by her bedside and took a spoon whenever she woke around 3. She thought it was natural, therefore calming, but her sleep diary showed more wake time, not less. We removed the bedside honey, changed the routine to breathing and water first, and her nights became quieter. She told me the house sounded different when she was not clinking a spoon against glass in the dark. Midway through, let me ask one favor. If this kind of plain-spoken health guidance helps you, subscribe and share this video with one person you love. Many older adults do not get this level of practical nutrition truth in a brief office visit, and sometimes one small change saves months of discomfort. 5. On an empty stomach late in the evening. Here's what most people get wrong. They think a natural sweetener behaves differently just because the label sounds wholesome. But an empty, late evening stomach can turn even a small, sweet dose into a rapid hit. Here is what it does inside you. It removes the speed bumps. Think of fiber, protein, and earlier daylight activity like brakes on a bicycle. Take them away, and the hill gets steep very fast. The American Heart Association says women should generally aim for no more than 25 grams of added sugar a day, and men no more than 36 grams. 1 tablespoon of honey contains about 17.25 grams of sugar and almost 64 calories, so 1 generous spoon can use up a very large share of the day's limit in a single moment. That is not a small number. The benefit of respecting this is not only better lab numbers, it is fewer cravings, steadier mornings, and better appetite control the next day. So what should you do instead? Never use honey as a standalone evening pick-me-up. If you choose to include it, keep it to 1 teaspoon, use it earlier in the day, and put it on a real food, plain Greek yogurt, steel-cut oats, or a slice of whole-grain toast with nut butter. Let me tell you about someone I will call Samuel, 71 years old, from Charlotte. He had started taking a big spoon of honey around 9:30 because a neighbor told him it was good for longevity. But he also noticed he was raiding crackers before bed and had less hunger for a proper breakfast. Once we moved that honey to morning oatmeal and cut the amount, his late cravings eased, and he told me coffee stopped tasting sour in his mouth at sunrise. Synergy tip: if you want sweetness, pair it with protein and daylight, not darkness and an empty stomach. 6. When your blood sugar is already borderline. If you have been told you have prediabetes, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, or just a rising A1C, this is where I become very direct. Honey is still sugar. Here is what it does inside you. It asks a stressed system to respond quickly when that system may already be slower than it used to be. Think of insulin like a key, and your cells like locks that have become a little stiff over time. The key still works, but it may not turn as smoothly, especially late in the day. In an analysis of 11,733 adults from NHANES linked mortality data, people getting 10 to 24.9% of calories from added sugar had a 30% higher risk of cardiovascular death, while those getting 25% or more had a hazard ratio of 2.75 compared with people under 10%. In plain language, the highest group had dramatically higher risk. And yes, honey is often added sugar in real life, even when it sounds more wholesome. So what should you do instead? If your blood sugar is borderline, reserve any honey for rare use, keep it to 1 teaspoon, take it earlier in the day, and never use it as a bedtime ritual. Ask your own physician whether you should skip it entirely for a few weeks while checking fasting glucose or continuous glucose trends. Let me tell you about someone I will call Maria, 76 years old, from San Antonio. Her A1C was inching upward, and every night she ended dinner with apples and honey because she had stopped eating cake and felt virtuous about the change. We kept the apple, removed the honey at night, and added a short walk after supper. At her follow-up, she said her rings slipped on more easily in the morning, and she no longer felt that heavy, sleepy fog after lunch. That is the power of timing and simplicity. 7. The so-called safe hour, right after evening tea. This is the surprise I promised you, because many viewers expect me to say, never eat honey after midnight, but the more deceptive hour is often much earlier, around 8:30 or 9, when people think, I am still awake, so it does not count. It counts. Here is what it does inside you. It trains the body to expect sweetness at the very time your clock should be winding down. Think of your brain like a child who notices patterns fast. Reward it nightly, and it will start asking for that reward before sleep. Researchers at Brigham and Women's Hospital, reported through Harvard sleep experts, studied 19 healthy adults during a controlled protocol simulating night work. Those who ate during the nighttime showed increased blood glucose and poorer beta cell function, while those who kept eating to daytime hours showed no significant changes. No significant changes. That matters. The benefit of breaking the evening honey habit is not punishment. It is freedom, less dependence on a ritual that may be quietly aging you. So what should you do instead? Make evening tea truly evening tea. Herbal, plain, unsweetened, and at least 2 to 3 hours before bed. If you want honey, give it a proper place, morning or early afternoon, in a small amount, with food. Let me tell you about someone I will call Denise, 73 years old, from Sacramento. Her routine was black tea with honey at 8:45 every night, no exceptions. She said it was her comfort signal. After we replaced the honey with sliced pear at lunch and kept the evening tea plain, she told me she still had comfort, but without the feeling that she was dragging herself uphill the next morning. That is what good routines do. They support you instead of taxing you. Let's bring it all together. If honey lands in the last hour before bed, it can push up sugar at the worst possible time. If it rides on top of a late dinner, it adds to an already delayed metabolic load. If reflux is part of your life, it can worsen nighttime pressure and morning throat symptoms. If you wake at 3 and use it like a sleep aid, you may be feeding the very wakefulness you are trying to escape. If you take it on an empty late evening stomach, it hits faster and harder. If your blood sugar is already borderline, it asks too much of a system that needs gentleness, not extra strain. And if you think right after evening tea is safe, remember the body clock does not care whether the kitchen lights are still on, so what should you do tonight and this week? First, look at the clock the next time you reach for honey. If it is within 2 to 3 hours of bed, stop. Second, if you use honey at all, cut the amount to 1 teaspoon and move it to breakfast or lunch. Third, if sleep or reflux is a problem, keep evening tea plain and finish dinner earlier. Fourth, if your fasting sugar has been creeping up, test the difference a honey-free evening routine makes for 2 to 4 weeks with your physician's guidance. Fifth, take a brief walk after dinner when you can, because muscles act like sponges for glucose, and that simple habit can work beautifully with earlier meal timing. And let me add a point I wish more families understood. Sweetness at night is rarely just about taste. It can become a cue, a learned signal, a ceremony the brain starts demanding on schedule. Break that cue gently, and nights may feel strange, but then something powerful happens. Hunger becomes quieter, evenings feel less urgent, and you start choosing instead of reacting. That is progress. Not dramatic, not trendy, just steady. For older adults, steady wins. Steady energy, steady sleep, steady balance, steady thinking, and the feeling that your body is working with you again. I want to end here, not with fear, but with dignity. The goal is not to make your world smaller. It is to protect the life you still want to live. To carry your own groceries without feeling shaky. To wake up clear enough to remember names, stories, birthdays, and the little jokes your grandchildren tell at the dinner table. To enjoy tea because it warms your hands, not because sugar has trained your body to demand it. To sleep with a quiet chest, a settled stomach, and a brain that gets the deep rest it needs. You do not need a perfect diet. You do not need guilt. You need a few truthful rules that respect how the body changes after 70. Honey is not poison, but honey at the wrong hour can absolutely work against you. Change the hour, change the habit, and very often, you change the morning. If this helped you, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments, what time do you usually have your last sweet bite of the day? I read every single comment.